Please be seated. Your Excellency, Chancellor, Presidents, Vice President, Members of Council, past Presidents, Deans, Fellows, Members, distinguished guests, you're all very welcome to RCSI this evening on the occasion of the Charter Day dinner. This is a very special evening for us, as it's the first Charter Day dinner since the start of the pandemic. We will commence this evening's proceedings with the award of Honorary Fellowships of the Royal College of Surgeons in Ireland, our highest award, upon 4 distinguished guests this evening. And I'm delighted to welcome Professor Derek Alderson, Emeritus Professor of Surgery, University of Birmingham, Mr. Roddy Doyle, Irish novelist, dramatist and screenwriter, Professor Stanley Goldberg, Clinical Professor of Surgery at the University of Minnesota, United States, and Professor Trevor McGill from the Department of Otolaryngology, Harvard Medical School and Boston's Children's Hospital. I'd now like to invite Professor Kevin Conlon, Member of Council of the RCSI, to come forward and read the citation for Professor Derek Alderson, Emeritus Professor of Surgery, University of Birmingham.
President, Vice President, past Presidents, Members of Council, Fellows, Members and guests. It gives me great pleasure to recommend Professor Derek Alderson for the award of Honorary Fellowship of the Royal College of Surgeons in Ireland. I'm delighted to be given the honour of delivering this citation. We welcome Professor Alderson, along with his wife Lynn, to RCSI tonight. Professor Alderson has been a true leader for surgery as we have journeyed through the pandemic over the last 2 years. He is Emeritus Professor of Surgery at the University of Birmingham and immediate past President of the Royal College of Surgeons of England. He is a proud son of Northumberland. He was born and grew up in Birtley, a town less than 10 miles from Newcastle. He attended Chester Street Grammar School, where he excelled both academically and in sports, developing a lifelong love of athletics and football. He was an exceptional middle distance runner, excelling in both the 8 and 1500 metres. With regards to football, he is a passionate Newcastle United supporter. However, I am told by one of his close colleagues that as he was born in Birtley, which is south of the River Tyne, by rights he should have been a Sunderland supporter. So loyalty to either team is apparently quite fanatical in the northeast of England. Such parochialism we Irish would find hard to understand. He is passionate about his family. His mother Mary remains well and continues to live in the original home in Birtley. He loves his garden, reading, including, I'm advised, Flann O'Brien. He's in fact the proud owner of many first editions, including At Swim with Two Birds. From Chester Street Grammar, he went to the University of Newcastle upon Tyne, graduating MBBS in 1976. Following his internship, he entered surgical training in Newcastle, and he enjoyed upper GI surgery and decided this would be his focus. He was awarded the Wellcome Surgical Fellowship in 1982, working in the laboratory of Professor John Farndon, and he was awarded his MD from Newcastle in 1987. Upon completion of his higher surgical training, he moved with John Farndon to Bristol, where he became senior lecturer at the University of Bristol and honorary consultant surgeon at the United Bristol Healthcare Trust in 1988. He was subsequently appointed Professor of Gastrointestinal Surgery at the University of Bristol and head of the Division of Surgery in 1987. He moved to Birmingham in 2005 to take up the prestigious position of Barleen Professor of Surgery and head of the Department of Surgery in the School of Cancer Sciences at the University of Birmingham. He remained in this position until his retirement from clinical practice in 2015. He has been phenomenally successful in his research efforts. He has more than 250 publications and has been the sole or major supervisor for 21 research fellows, 15 of whom have been awarded higher degrees. He has many research highlights, including being principal investigator of the largest multi-center randomized controlled trial that looked at novel neoadjuvant therapies for patients with esophageal cancer. Nearly 900 patients were recruited to this trial, an absolutely phenomenal result, and this trial was published in Lancet Oncology. He remains an active teacher in both the undergraduate and postgraduate arenas. He has served as external examiner in many prestigious universities in the United Kingdom and beyond, including Trinity College Dublin and University College Dublin here at home. He continues to be interested in surgical training, particularly the development of novel, minimally invasive and robotic techniques. He's a member of many professional societies, too many to mention. But I highlight that he served as president of the Association of Upper Gastrointestinal Surgeons, president of the Society of Academic and Research Surgeons, and most recently, as I mentioned, president of the Royal College of Surgeons of England, demitting office in 2020. In his official college portrait that was unveiled last December in London, he is seen holding a copy of the British Journal of Surgery. This is entirely fitting, as he has had a long and productive association with the BJS. He was editor-in-chief between 2010 and 2016, and founding editor-in-chief of BJS Open between 2017 and 2021, before becoming a trustee of the BJS Society. President, it is a privilege and honour to present to you Professor Derek Alderson, surgeon, educator, mentor and scholar, whom I am sure you will agree is worthy of the highest distinction this college has to offer, the Honorary Fellowship of the College of Surgeons, Royal College of Surgeons in Ireland.
I, Derek Alderson, do solemnly and sincerely declare that I will observe and be obedient to the statutes, bylaws, and ordinances of the Royal College of Surgeons in Ireland, and I will, to the utmost of my power, endeavour to promote the reputation, honour, and dignity of the said college.
By virtue of my office as President, I admit you an Honorary Fellow of the Royal College of Surgeons in Ireland. Congratulations.
We continue with the second award of Honorary Fellowship, and I'm delighted to invite Mr. David Moore, Member of Council of RCSI, to come forward and read the citation for Mr. Roddy Doyle, Irish novelist, dramatist and screenwriter.
President, Vice President, past presidents, members of council, fellows, members, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I am very happy to propose Mr. Roddy Doyle for the award of an honorary fellowship of the Royal College of Surgeons in Ireland. I asked Mr. Doyle earlier this evening, should I call him Mr. Doyle, as is written in front of me. He said, Roddy, please. Roddy was born in 1958 and is a novelist, playwright, short story writer, children's writer, biographer and screenwriter. He is the author of 11 novels for adults, 8 books for children, 7 plays and screenplays, and dozens of short stories. Several of his books have been made into films, beginning with The Commitments in 1991, for which he won a BAFTA award. Roddy was born in Dublin and grew up in Kilbarrack. After attending St. Fintan's Christian Brothers School in Sutton, he continued his education at University College Dublin, earning a BA in English and Geography in 1979. He returned to Kilbarrack after graduation and began teaching at Greendale Community School. In 1987, he married Belinda Moller, and they have 3 children, Rory, Jack, and Kate. Very few people here in the room will not be familiar with the Barrytown trilogy. The Commitments in 1987, The Snapper in 1990, and The Van in 1991. And this trilogy focuses on a working-class Irish community, illuminating the behaviours and dreams of his characters through their actions and particularly through their use of the vernacular. The Barrytown community is comprised of mostly uneducated working-class characters, many of whom are unemployed or underemployed, struggling to find the material means necessary for survival. However, although his characters are aware of their dire economic situations, they refuse to be defeated. Instead, they find comfort in humour, seek help from communal networks of friends and family, and display unmitigated pride in their regional dialect. Dialogue is one of the major driving forces behind his narratives, a technique which has caused many reviewers to label his fiction as cinematic, and he has written screenplays for the film adaptations of his Barrytown trilogy. He also wrote the acclaimed BBC and RTE television miniseries Family in 1994, which presented a graphic portrayal of many social issues that affect modern Irish families, including domestic violence, alcoholism, and drug use. In addition to teaching, Roddy, along with Sean Love, established a creative writing centre called Fighting Words, which opened in Dublin in January 2009. He also engaged in other local causes closer to home. Over the last 6 years, at the request of the College of Surgeons Professor of Orthopaedics, John O'Byrne, Roddy has made himself available to adjudicate on short story submissions from medical students for the National Orthopaedic Literary Award. Why the laughter? The success of this competition is based around Roddy's positivity and support and encouragement of a project that encourages medical students to develop their creative side. His works are widely acclaimed and are far too numerous for me to list here, but some highlights include The Woman Who Walked Into Doors, Rory and Ita, a memoir of his parents, and A Star Called Henry. He has written a biography with Roy Keane, and I learned this evening that he's currently writing a biography with Kelly Harrington. He has contributed to a variety of publications, including The New Yorker, McSweeney's, Metro Éireann, and several anthologies. He won the Booker Prize in 1993 for Paddy Clark, Ha Ha Ha. President, I'm sure you will agree that for his contributions to Irish literature, culture, history, and society, Mr. Roddy Doyle is worthy of the highest distinction this college has to offer, the Honorary Fellowship of the Royal College of Surgeons in Ireland.
I'll try to avoid colloquialisms. I, Roddy Doyle, do solemnly and sincerely declare that I will observe and be obedient to the statutes, bylaws and ordinances of the Royal College of Surgeons in Ireland, and I will, to the utmost of my power, endeavour to promote the reputation, honour and dignity of the said college.
By virtue of my office as President, I admit you an Honorary Fellow of the Royal College of Surgeons in Ireland. Congratulations.
It now gives me great pleasure to invite Professor Deborah McNamara, Member of Council of RCSI, to come forward and read the citation for Professor Stanley Goldberg, Clinical Professor of Surgery at the University of Minnesota.
Mr. President, Madam Vice President, past presidents, members of council, fellows, members, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me great pleasure to recommend Professor Stanley M. Goldberg for the award of Honorary Fellowship of the Royal College of Surgeons in Ireland. Professor Goldberg is a globally renowned colon and rectal surgeon who is clinical professor of surgery at the Division of Colon and Rectal Surgery at the University of Minnesota Medical School and a senior surgical consultant at the Minneapolis Veterans Administration Medical Center. Professor Goldberg is a native of Minneapolis, Minnesota, and has served the people of his state faithfully since qualifying in 1956. An early indication of the value he places on international collaboration occurred in 1962, when as the American Cancer Society Fellow, he took the opportunity to work in St. Mark's Hospital in London. Since that time, he has made important contributions to education and training in his specialty. In addition to being a prolific author, researcher, and surgical trainer, he has delivered numerous lectures all over the globe, including the Abraham Collis Lecture here in RCSI in 2003. Among numerous leadership positions, he is a past president of the American Board of Colon and Rectal Surgery, and his contributions have been recognized with 29 honorary memberships and fellowships of our sister colleges in countries as diverse as Japan, Australia, the Philippines, and by our closer neighbours in Glasgow, Edinburgh, England, France, and Spain. Among his many discipline of coloproctology. Secondly, the establishment in 2000 of the Stanley M. Goldberg, MD, FACS Chair in Colon and Rectal Surgery at the University of Minnesota Medical School marks his enduring legacy to our profession. Like many successful surgeons, President, perhaps his most noteworthy achievement was having the good sense to choose an outstanding partner. Mrs. Luella Gross Goldberg, Honorary Doctor of Laws, is also a Minnesota native, and she herself has had a most distinguished and pioneering career as a corporate director and civic leader. Mrs. Goldberg, you are most welcome to RCSI. Mr. President, it gives me great pleasure to present to you Professor Stanley M. Goldberg, MD, who I am sure you will agree is worthy of the highest distinction this college has to offer, the Honorary Fellowship of the Royal College of Surgeons in Ireland.
Thank you ever so much. I, Stanley Goldberg, do solemnly and sincerely declare that I will observe and be obedient to the statutes, bylaws, and ordinances of the Royal College of Surgeons in Ireland. And I will, to the utmost of my power, endeavor to promote the reputation, honor, and dignity of the said college.
By virtue of my office as president, I admit you an honorary fellow of the Royal College of Surgeons in Ireland. Congratulations, madam.
We now continue with the Honorary Fellowship Award for Professor Trevor McGill from the Department of Otolaryngology, Harvard Medical School and Boston's Children's Hospital. And I invite our Vice President, Professor Laura Vianney, to come forward to deliver the citation.
Mr. President, past presidents, members of council, fellows, members, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure and it's a great privilege to recommend Professor Trevor McGill for the award of Honorary Fellowship of the Royal College of Surgeons in Ireland. Professor Trevor McGill has been Professor of Otology and Laryngology at Harvard Medical School and a Senior Associate in Otolaryngology at Boston Children's Hospital. Over many decades, he's played a pivotal role in elevating the reputation of his department to its current status as the premier paediatric otolaryngology unit in the United States of America. A native of Kells, County Meath, he received his surgical training in London and Liverpool and followed this with a 2-year Fogarty International Fellowship. This was awarded by the NIH, studying temporal bone histopathology of sensorineural hearing loss at the Massachusetts Eye and Ear Infirmary in Boston. At Boston Children's Hospital, Dr. McGill initiated one of the first paediatric otolaryngology training programs, setting a template for similar training programs throughout the entire world. Since then, he's been training residents and fellows, including many of today's world authorities. His original contributions to head and neck surgery range from altering our understanding of congenital cholesteatoma of the middle ear to the management of complex vascular anomalies and the management of pediatric tumors of the head and neck. Dr. McGill has been recognized both nationally and internationally as a transformative influence on pediatric otolaryngology. He also developed an innovative program to allow trainees from the Irish Specialist Training Program to attend 6 months of their training at Boston Children's Hospital, which has been a wonderful initiative. This program has operated for the past 17 years, and from which many of its alumni have returned to develop centres elsewhere. Throughout his career, Dr. McGill has published extensively and has been the co-editor of 3 paediatric otolaryngology textbooks. He's received many awards and accolades. Most notably, he has served as a discussant for the weekly CPC at the Mass General Hospital on 3 separate occasions, all of which have been published in the New England Journal of Medicine. In recognition of his teaching skills and education accomplishments, he was honoured in 2011 when a chair in paediatric otolaryngology was created in his name at Boston Children's Hospital and Harvard Medical School. Professor Gerard Healy, who is here today and who is also an honorary fellow of the College in Ireland, insists that Trevor McGill is responsible for him pursuing a career in paediatric otolaryngology. Professor Healy has said that Trevor's skills as a surgeon and his unique teaching styles are legendary. His love of family and ability to tell great story are in the finest Irish tradition. Trevor has been supported by his wife Angela and son Trevor Jr. Trevor has a great love for the outdoors, is a keen golfer, and has travelled widely. In the final furlong of his medical odyssey, he's pursued clinical research, writing a history of the Department of Otolaryngology of Boston Children's Hospital, and visiting colleagues in Ireland and the UK. But Boston will be his home because of his family and grandchildren. Dr. Trevor McGill, as Professor in Otolaryngology at Boston Children's Hospital and Harvard Medical School, leaves an unmatched legacy of clinical, scientific, and educational accomplishments. Robert J. Rubin, editor of the International Journal of Paediatric Otolaryngology, has said, "Oh, that we could clone him. His clinical knowledge and experience are beyond accolade." So, President, I'm sure you will agree that Dr. Trevor McGill is a worthy recipient of the award of Honorary Fellowship of the Royal College of Surgeons in Ireland here this evening.
I, Trevor McGill, do solemnly and sincerely declare that I will observe and be obedient to the statutes, bylaws, and ordinances of the Royal College of Surgeons in Ireland, and I will, to the utmost of my power, endeavour to promote the reputation, honour, and dignity of the said college.
By virtue of my office as President, I admit you an Honorary Fellow of the Royal College of Surgeons in Ireland. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you so much. After you.
Sincere congratulations to all our latest honorary fellows. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the formal aspect of this evening. I wish you all a very pleasant dinner, and can I ask you to be upstanding for the outward procession?